All right, Chelsea fans, we are breaking down the Fulham match review. As you know, the most important things from this one, Dan, Nick, and Brandon. Let's jump into it with the Enzo show. Nick, Enzo was absolutely dominant in this one, starting to justify that 9+ figure price tag that we paid for him coming from Benfica. How did you make of his day out at against Fulham, obviously at the Bridge?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think very obviously this is his best performance in some time, probably in the last 3 months. He looked a lot more energetic. He looked a lot more free, and his running style didn't look as hampered in terms of the way that, we know he's been playing with a hernia injury, which is, of course, like a really serious thing. And that would, of course, stop you from maybe having the full range of motion possible. But his performance yesterday was a lot more dynamic, and I was really pleased to see that because he opened up a lot of things offensively. I think, Dan mentioned this before, but the midfield three looked like positionally they knew where each other were going to be a lot more. And so I was very, very pleased with this. It's not just some of the stats, but it's the eye test. And the eye test was that he was the best player on the pitch for me and deserved to win the man of the match.
Yeah, I think ultimately he had a really good day out, a very strong performance. I think you still want to see an uptick in the shots that he's taking. I mean, he, over 90 minutes or over the time that he had on the pitch, was one shot in total, which was blocked. It was 0.13 XG. So again, not a high quality chance. And that is something that is missing from his game, and not necessarily to say that when he was at Benfica, he was absolutely lighting up the goal scoring chart for the team. But when you think about it, like, it just is something where, he could find a way to increase either the goal plus assist contribution. That would be a really, really strong start if he could kind of go in that direction, because as much as he's been a little bit of a metronome, Brandon, ultimately, like, there needs to be, from our midfield combination, which is Enzo, Caicedo, and Gallagher at the moment, someone in that trio needs to start adding in value from a goals and assist contribution to help make the work a little lighter for our attackers.
Well, I think that is the missing piece, right? Because when Enzo was brought in, it was for his creative play, his ability to put the ball in for other players, create those shot opportunities and goals. Caicedo, clearly the defensive player, the destroyer, and Hassler in there, so that whether it's Conor Gallagher or Nkunku, probably Nkunku, that's where we're going to see more. But look at some of these stats if we do dig. If you don't mind me, Nick, take a moment here to look at these numbers here. He did have 95 touches. He had 83% accurate passes, 52 of 63, 3 key passes on the day. He was 2 for 2 from his crosses. Long balls, 6 of 9. He created a big chance. Again, the shots lacking. 4 of 6 dribbling as well, which was lovely to see. And that's all on the offensive side. Now you flip it. He was 9 of 16 on his ground duels. He fouled twice, was fouled twice, had 3 clearances, blocked a shot, had an interception, 3 more tackles. Minus the fouls at the end that were driving me a little bit crazy, getting a little bit chippy, but my man was playing with passion and absolutely refused to lose to Fulham. Thankfully, Willian blasting over the bar towards the end. But boy, oh boy, it made it a little bit interesting, did it? But Enzo, phenomenal performance on the day.
I think the two things that I would call out in his stats are the accurate passes. 83% isn't like an overwhelmingly positive number, but you have to think about the way that he's playing passes. Like, he's playing a lot more progressive balls and taking more risks than a lot of other players. Like, Caicedo's regularly in like the 90s or even mid 90s because his passes are a lot more easy in a lot of ways to make. He usually has an outlet. Enzo's doing a lot more of the dynamic passing forward, trying to break lines, all that sort of stuff. And the long balls, this is something that I'm looking for this team to do moving forward, right? When the midfield gets congested and you have winger options that are open, there are a lot of crossfield balls out to Cole or out to Malagusto yesterday from that left-hand side all the way to the right. That is a way to kind of shift the style of play and make a defense that is typically like boxed in have to spread out a little bit, give your forward players some area to move. So I really look at those two stats as something that I want to see him continue to do. And we're going to have to take risks against teams that aren't really looking to play us super aggressively. So I'm not necessarily too upset about the 83% pass accuracy.
All right. Hey, the next one was big George Petrovic on the day. He's been going a little bit unnoticed, but as a goalkeeper, I can tell you that is a good thing, Dan. He saved a 1.0 XG, so saved us an entire goal, which would have been the leveler. Had 4 saves on the day. Again, we know that Fulham weren't the most dangerous, but he came out, claimed a couple crosses as well, saved 3 shots from inside the box, and then his passing, his distribution is there. Sanchez has scared us a couple times of the ball at his feet. So I think Petrovic has really brought that to calm the fans, and we are appreciative of the gift.
What a move to go from playing with the New England Revolution in the MLS to making the jump up to the Premier League and starting for a side like Chelsea. That is a rocket ship type of improvement or change in the league that you're playing in. Like, you're operating in a different stratosphere, and he was strong on the day. I mean, I think in a different day, the ball bounces one way, bounces a different way. Chelsea have either drawn or lost this game to Fulham off of the quality of saves that Petrovic was able to jump in, palm out, and keep from getting in. And look, I think he's been unlucky with some of the goals that we've conceded. We've had to try to stitch together a defense with the injuries that Chelsea have had. So finding that consistency with his defenders and who plays in front of him hasn't really been as consistent, I would imagine, as a goalkeeper will like. But in general, like, this is a positive sign to have goalkeeper play that allows Pochettino to ask the question, like, is this the person I should be betting on for the remainder of the season? Like, to me, I don't think you can take him out between the sticks until something majorly disastrous happens, and hopefully that doesn't happen. And so my thought, Nick, is that we'll see Petrovic until the end of the season unless something goes crazy wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we've debated this before, right? Do you lose your place through injury or not? And I typically fall on the other side, where I don't believe you should lose your place through injury, right? When Enzo Fernandez was healthy again, he's back in the lineup, and I would assume that is the way the team's going to operate with Robert Sanchez. But as Brandon and Matt Law alluded to on the Thursday pod last week, I mean, Robert Sanchez isn't close to being back. He's going to see another specialist. There could be a bigger problem than originally uncovered. We've learned that about some of the other injuries as well, that it was more serious than we originally thought. You think of Carney Chukwuemeka's injury. Like, I'm really glad that he's here. And a third point I'll make on this is that you look at the backup keepers that are currently playing in the Premier League. Some by choice, if you're Arsenal or Nottingham Forest, and some through injury, right? And I would say he is clearly the class of that bunch. Whether he's the number 2 or he's the number 1, he's been the most reliable. He's looked the best. He is a kind of a langy kind of guy. Like, he has a really kind of difficult frame to shoot around. And I want to see him beef up a little bit so that he's a little bit more competitive in those, like, melee moments at the end of matches, Brandon. But so far so good. I mean, you talk about MLS to the Premier League, that's like 4 or 5 level jumps in terms of quality of play, in terms of speed of play. That's not easy to do, and he deserves a ton of credit for doing it well.
Look, there have been multiple calls for him to get a chance earlier in the season. He has taken it now that he has it and run with it, and we absolutely love to see that. As a proud member of the Goalkeepers Union, I want all goalkeepers to be the best, and Petrovic is standing strong. Really, really happy with, especially in this match, saved the day when we could not get the attack engine going, which is actually the last thing we wanted to talk about here, is lacking an attack. Yet again, we had 17 shots, only 3 on target. Not good enough, especially when one of those shots was a penalty. That was always going to be on target. Broya starting, right? Jackson and AFCON. Nick, do you feel like Broya is a problem, or it's the attack at large? I know crosses were only 4 for 19 at a 21% conversion rate. How are you seeing this attack? And I guess we just seemed a little disjointed yesterday.
Yeah, he didn't have a good start to the game. Let's put it that way. I do think he grew into it as the game went on, started to get into some better positions. I don't know the best way for him to play. I think at times he has tried to play like Nico Jackson plays, which is a really kind of aggressive, hard-running, pressing style that involves a ton of effort and wear and tear on the tires. And, with his injury record, I'm not sure that's great. I would love to see him play a more traditional kind of big center forward role where, he's in a particular area, maybe can play back to keeper, maybe play in some other players, maybe get some assists, maybe get a couple headers. It doesn't seem like he knows exactly how he should be playing, and the team doesn't know where he's going to be, and that's that's creating a ton of issues, right? Because you think about the header that went in against Preston last weekend. That's a center forward's goal. He was exactly where he should have been. The cross was there, headed into the corner. You can't do it better than that. He wasn't necessarily in those areas a tremendous amount today. I don't know if that was by design or if that was just a young player getting used to his teammates still after being out with injury for the better part of a year. But I really, really hope that they figure out how to play him and maybe give him more of a central role.
I think the thing to keep in mind is, so he is a step down in terms of the number of shots he's taking per 90 minutes. You look at Nico Jackson, 2.8, so rounding closer to 3. The step down to Armando Broya, 2.58. So it's, it is a decline. It's maybe not as massive as, some might think kind of initially. I think the bigger kind of question is the fact that, Chelsea had really 3 chances outside of the penalty that were of note when it comes to, like, would this potentially be a goal, right? Not everybody loves XG, but ultimately it's a good at least initial guide rail for, like, hey, was this shot heading in a direction where you could anticipate it might become one? Sterling in the 53rd minute, 0.36 XG. Broya in the 56th minute, 0.24 XG. And then Enzo in the 12th minute with a 0.13 XG. Everything else was less than, effectively like 10% of that type of shot would go in. So ultimately, Chelsea are not creating the volume of chances that would lead to a goal, and that continues to be the problem. It's not necessarily that Chelsea aren't taking enough shots. You would figure with 17 shots, that actually is perfectly fine. It's that only 3 got on target, and only 3 when you remove the penalty, or think about this: take the penalty and take those 3. That's 0.153 XG. Of 2.19, which is the total. That's 70%. So 4 shots plus the penalty equaled the majority of Chelsea's attacking thrust, and that's just not good enough.
Well, the best shot in the second half was Conor Gallagher's that went off the post, right? So, I mean, you think about that, and it's like there wasn't a whole lot created, and that's a big problem.
So that's exactly where I come to FBref to pull up the stats and show we are bottom half of the table in shot creating actions at 24.10 per 90. Liverpool are 33.35. Man City are just under 31. Arsenal at essentially 30. There's a big gap between that. So we're going to go ahead and continue to focus on that, see how it grows and develops. Obviously, a lot of changing personnel in attack. The one silver lining, the one hope we can all still hold on is if this regular season we've accumulated the second highest XG, which means we're lacking a finisher. We need Broya to step up and finish these chances, whether it's Sterling, Cole Palmer continues to do it, Noni Madueke, all these players, Carney Chukwuemeka coming back. The opportunities are there. We just need to get that clinical finisher to put it away. But hey, that's it from us. Fulham match review done. We got the 3 points in, out, did the double over in the season. We've got more in-depth breakdown. If you want, go check over our podcast. Link in the description. We'll be back, though, YouTube. Put in the comments, who was your standout player of the match? Was it Enzo, or did we miss? Let us know in the comments. We'll be back.